There we go. So Saturday, 15th of August, we're now roughly 10 to 12. I don't see the Managing Director of Birmingham City Council or John Cotton, any member of the Court Service, any member of West Midlands Police, any member of Birmingham Live, any member of the legal profession that I would recognise, any credible male authority of any kind. I mean, there are sort of various members of the American armies who are walking around here, and you're probably not going to mess with them. But the sort of specimens that are being sent from the south from Birmingham currently aren't really up to much, so we're not really taking them all that seriously. If you are sort of my size and working in a compliance department, if you think given these matters we're going to report to Deborah Agentieri, whoever that is, then you're delusional and of course you're dishonest and dangerous. It's quite obvious this woman isn't responsible for security because she can't, given that she's not a tank-sized man and doesn't involve themselves with West Midlands Police and their strange theatre performances. Unless she can explain that via a separate theatre performance north of the border, it may be sensible for Birmingham City Council to explain its actions, including that of the Managing Director, since given that she's trying to close off Sutton Police Station to investigation of her and David Gilbourne's conduct, seemingly, that's going to have to be ironed out properly via sensible people and an appropriate legal framework. What that legal framework involves is a human being, so that is one of these evolved apes. So you see lots of them walking about, they live and they die, they have these exciting lives. But one of them is going to go down to a Birmingham law firm with my late father's name on it, and he's going to talk to the people inside and say, hey, this guy would like a chat in Scotland, can you send him a solicitor please? We appreciate, you know, he did say you've got to sort out my colleagues first, but it's come to the point where it's fairly obvious that given that there is no credible criminal justice system in Birmingham, given the Solzhenitsyn style Starmification of Winston Green, then their serious compliance people are just leaving. So you can resolve this however you want. I mean, it's not exactly a hostage situation. I've got a decaying piece of Lenovo plastic and the knowledge in my brain which they can't work out the value of, which is the whole problem. If you're going to sue the local authority, there's a game in employment law called Weigh the Brain. So if I can hammer 5 nails into a hobnail boot in an hour, and because of an industrial injury I'm down to 3, then the earning power for me and my family is reduced. That'll have an effect on me, my children, my descendants. There are huge, profound effects on my family and people around me. If my boots are failing because of my disability, that affects the company, etc., etc. So this is now being adjudicated by Jennifer Southall, a former leisure centre manager, Darren Canning, who follows CIPD guidance rather than the law and expects his court officers to defer to him, and the managing director, whose qualifications are getting caught doing a Potemkin village in Birmingham University by the guy who collects her rent. So this is quite an embarrassing statement, really, in many senses. My colleagues appear to think it's embarrassing for me, but I assure you that's not the case. When you get out of Birmingham, you can speak to credible adult men about national security, and they express similar sentiments, shall we say, that we're concerned about borders and our ability to protect people around us. When my job is to protect people around me as part of Birmingham's compliance team, and as part of the job we're looking out for, you know, loan sharks, all sorts of low-level thugs and gangsters, that after 17 years I'm saying, well, the low-level thugs and gangsters have made it into our offices and are now attacking us and locking out of meetings, are a compliance risk, a child safeguarding risk, all kinds of risks all over the place. We can't discuss them because the commissioners won't speak to us, so we're leaving until that's sensibly resolved in an adult fashion. So this would have been resolved in a sensible adult fashion if Max Call had gone off his backside and sent his political advisor to talk to us. When in your flat or your home you can wave a book at him and say, well, there's the evidence, moron, it's right in front of your face. We've been watching them for 6 years, what have you been doing? But at the end of this, it doesn't actually matter. There is so much stuff rammed into their databases that as soon as a forensic auditor comes in with police, they're done. We've already hammered it for years. We got the initial project in 2020 and kept the job. That was the prize, not ending up like Isherwood or Thomas or the rest of them. We've sat there with enough links. It's just that the links on our side are pathetic. So you've got Helen capitulating at this point, all these people running away and hiding. All you've got to do is just say no. You have every resource of the British state, right? All this stuff up here is meant to protect you and let you do that. It's just recalcitrant bureaucrats in Birmingham refusing to comply with the state, which they've been doing now for at least 13 years in terms of basic level compliance. And of course, because it was never picked up by central government, it's now escalated into this total catastrophe. So the commissioners need more powers to sort it out, but the commissioners need actual authority. So not being attacked physically when they go into offices requires security. The police can't do it, right? The police are admitting, we're going to sit there apologising. We're not going to make sure there's any order in Birmingham. We've given up on that kind of stuff. So the predictable downstream effects of the collapse of civilization are now happening. The higher level Maslow's hierarchy of needs thinkers are thinking, well, I went from bit of shrapnel and painting and being on the street to being in very pleasant accommodation, I must say, and having it well furnished to my liking and having various professional colleagues to talk to. We don't need these morons to deal with compliance matters. We can do it just by these recordings. As soon as someone honest picks this kind of shit up and puts it into a transcript, gets it in front of other members of the legal profession, things will start moving organically. But the disappointing thing is 12 months on. I think my contact has been with slipper chasing down Turfton Street, a certain woman in a pub, and I think that was about it, to be fair. Stephen Morris flared. Unison, of course, were going to be seriously corrupt. But in and out, I mean, it's currently with... I think the only logical one in the chain is probably Slater and Gordon, because they had one said, well, exhaust your option and come back. Which, like, well, given the complexity, how do you work out? And that's been the case. Do you expect Unison to go to their NEC? Are they going to actually engage in a kind of adult manner? Is the EIHC going to intervene? Who knows at this point? So if you want to play along at home, again, you can buy a commercial drone for circa £2,000. There is nothing stopping you from flying it above the Ball Street Court and seeing who goes in and out, or indeed the Council House at the moment. The barriers of peace won't keep out flying units, and Brummies are desperately afraid of those, I can tell you at the moment. But you can do this in a totally legal and totally reasonable sense, just using the formula we've outlined. So you don't need to actually have British artillery pointing at Birmingham. You can be your own crime-fighting detectives and find these people, get them on camera, because the way it works is any footage is good. You analyse these people effectively like primates at this point in terms of functioning, so little snippets of their behaviour can be picked up. If they can't be picked up, you can ask, legitimately what they're doing in terms of housing management, in terms of that city. But it really is a play along at home adventure game at this point. Find Bridget Jones, find John Cotton, find Joanne Roney, find Chris Naylor, find all these people who did this to the city, and just ask them basic Socratic questions that they would use the communications technology to flee from. So John Cotton's link to the pipe is severed, as is mine, but we've got the satellites. So you see why Herman wanted to shut this down, isn't it? They've lost control. They have no control over the British public. Everybody's got a camera in their pockets, and if you're part of the state apparatus that is entwined so closely as we were in Birmingham, you cannot get out of the city without pulling a whole of their guts with you. So it is in the sense that even Helen is behaving in sort of a Foucauldian sense. By doing that, if she thought about it for 30 seconds, she is logically harming people by doing that. So if you go for power over truth, your second order consequences, just think about it for 30 seconds, are more likely to hurt people. So we'll let Helen think about that one on the Saturday while she's quote unquote freaking out. But anyway, this is the current situation by Edinburgh Castle this morning. Plenty of tourists, no credible authority though from Birmingham's second city, other than their authority to run the court service legally being here.